cycles. We are delighted that you have taken the opportunity to join us. So prepare yourselves for this week's teaching and equipping session. Get ready to be educated, equipped, and set free as you listen to this week's broadcast. And thank you for joining us.
Hey, 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 Dream Family. Hello. Welcome to Truth Tuesday. I am so excited you guys are here to join me. Give me 1 second. I have got to fix this camera because it is bothering me. Y'all, I'm so excited that you're here for Truth Tuesday for another week. I said last week we were going to talk about generational curses, and we were going to use a biblical family to look at. And so I have one, and I have an outline here that I want to go over before we get into it. And I have a presentation that I want to show to you guys, just so you have an idea of just kind of what a generational curse can look like if I can speak today. So first of all, for those joining for the first time, I'm Cunningham. I'm a part of the Dream team. Dream is located in Cincinnati, Ohio at 636 Northland Boulevard. Our foundation is, what does Dream stand for? Let's talk about that really quickly before we get into today. It stands for Deliverance, Restoration, Education, and Empowerment for Me Ministries. That is who we are. We are Deliverance, Restoration, Education, and Empowerment for Me Ministry. We help individuals and families break cycles. But first, before you can break the cycle, you have to identify that there is a cycle that needs to be broken. And our team helps you identify what those cycles are. We have a deliverance packet that we typically have families fill out, or members of families fill out first. That kind of gives us the background. It's kind of similar to when you go to the doctor's office and your doctor goes, "Tell me about your family history." And they utilize that information to figure out what do they need to test for. Like if I have several people in my family who have high blood pressure, then they know we need to watch your blood pressure. If I have several members of my family who've had different types of cancer, then they would know, okay, we now need to look out for cancer in you. Let's do some testing, some genetic testing to figure out what's there. So understanding your background is what helps us to identify what you may be dealing with. And we're always looking for open doors, whether you yourself have open doors or whether it's been someone else in the bloodline. And so that is what we do. To find out more about Dream, here is our website. It's www.dream.org. And you can go to our website to find more about our organization, to find out about our awesome leader, Apostle Deborah Edwards, to find out about our team, to sign up for different ministries like marriage ministry and marriage counseling. We do have a service where we partner with parents to help with counseling for young children, and we do refer them out for additional services if needed. And then we also have the packet there so that you can sign up for to go through your own deliverance session if you are someone who feels like you need to definitely go through that. So that is a little bit about us. And I know I am talking very fast, but I got to get this in 30 minutes. So I'm super speeding through everything, but I do want to make sure you guys get it. This will probably be a 2-session information that we're going to share tonight, because I doubt it if I can get it all in one session. So again, we're talking about generational curses. We're going to look at Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, just to get some more information about what they dealt with. What do we see in the family? We're not only going to look at the curse, but we're also going to look at the blessings as well. Okay. So first of all, let's talk about what is a generational curse, Kyle. What is it? A generational curse is a habit or behavior that has been passed down from one generation to the next. It's a habit or it's a behavior that's been passed down from one generation to the next. It is also allowing spirits access to your family, to your bloodline through open doors. That is when I open the door of lying. So now all of a sudden I'm dealing with this lying spirit, and now my child is dealing with this lying spirit, and their child is dealing with this lying spirit, and it all came from a door that opened. So that is what a generational curse is. Generational curse is believed to be passed down from one generation to another due to rebellion against God. It is due to rebellion against God that we have opened this door to curses to have access to us. I know what I'm not supposed to do, but it's fun, so I'm going to do it anyway. and then I'm going to repent for it. And I think everything is going to be washed away, even though I'm not truthfully repenting, because I'm still going to go back and do what I want to do anyway, because I'm living compromised. That could be it. Sometimes can be unknowingly. I didn't know that I was dealing with this particular issue, Kai, because I was not aware that I had even opened that door. Maybe it's something you watched on TV. Maybe it's something you heard. Maybe it's a movie you went to and it allowed a door to open in you. What would this be like? Just for those of you who are going, I don't understand. Let's say there is a certain type of music that you listen to that causes you to feel emotions or heightened sexual emotions when you listen to this specific type of music. So that is an open door for you. It's an open access for the enemy. Or you watch this particular movie and now you're having dreams of having sex or intimacy with somebody, and then you start to act on it. I didn't know it came from watching the movie that caused the dreams to happen, that caused the desire to pick up, which caused me to now act on those things that I watch. But that's literally what an open door looks like, just fast tracking it so I can get everybody to where we're going. I want everybody to look at our scripture, Deuteronomy. It all comes down to a choice. That is the belief of where generational curses come down from. If you guys look at Deuteronomy 30:19, it says, "This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life so that you and your children may live." Okay. So God is telling you, I'm going to set before you blessings and cursings, and you have a choice to make. So it all comes down to a choice. What do you choose to do? And that will affect the next generations, what they deal with. I want you guys to be able to see this. But before we get started, I also want you guys to check out Genesis 9:26, and give me 1 second. That is not what I wanted to do. We're going to go to Genesis 9:26 and 27. It says, "He also said, praise the Lord, the God of Shem. May Canaan be the slave of Shem, and may God extend Japheth's territory. May Japheth live in the tents of Shem, and may Canaan be the slave of Japheth." The reason why I read that is because Shem is Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are the descendants of Shem. So the blessing that was spoken by Noah over his children, Shem and Japheth, have passed down the bloodline to now Abraham, or Abram, as we're finding him in the beginning of chapter 9 of Genesis. And so that's what I wanted to point out. See, the blessing started there. It came down, same way as curses. Wherever the curse starts, it will continue to move through the bloodline to somebody says, I acknowledge you. I see it. Now let's break it in the name of Jesus. And they go through a deliverance to cause that thing to break. So I am going to take you guys through Abraham. And let's talk about the blessings there. Give me 1 second. I need to share my screen. Give me 1 second. Okay, let's share my screen, my window. All right, you guys. So up, give me one. There we go. I was going to say, wait a minute, where is it? All right, so we are looking at the blessings, and I'm going to make this a little bit larger because I want you guys to really be able to see this. And I've highlighted some things. So first of all, we're going to start with the member of the family. We're going to start with the generational curse, and then afterwards, we're going to go through the generational blessings. So first of all, the thing that we notice about Abram and who became Abraham, and Sarai, who became Sarah, first of all, his wife was barren. That was the first thing we noticed. If you go forward into Isaac, same thing. Isaac's wife was barren until he prayed and God opened her womb. Same thing happened with Abraham. His wife was barren until God opened her womb. And God kept saying to Abraham, I'm going to give you a child. I'm going to give you a child, but it had not happened yet. Okay. So we see that with Abraham. We see that with Isaac. We also see that with Jacob. That is 3 generations where the wife was barren. That is a generational curse that we're seeing. And God had to intervene in order to open the wife's womb up. So that's the first thing I want you to see. Now, this is not a genealogram. I don't want anybody to get confused and think that's what this is. This is just a way for us to streamline and put some pieces in to be able to tell a story. The next thing we see about Abram is he lied to a king about his relationship with Sarah. So in entered lying in deceit. He felt that if they knew that this was his wife, then they would murder him. So instead of saying she's my wife, he said she's my sister. Technically, she was his sister, but this was your wife too. And so he lied. So lying and deceit now have access to the bloodline. They have come in. But what was interesting for me was this happened right after God made promises to him. So God said God would make him a great nation. God would bless him. He would curse those that curse him and extend to Jacob. This extended to Jacob with Liam as well, as far as that saying, curse those who curse you, because as we go forward, we're going to find out that when Liam decided he was going to go after Jacob, God told him, you better not say anything bad to him. You better watch your words about him. So although Liam had reason to be upset because he took off with his daughters without telling him anything, God said, watch how you handle him. So that curse, I'm going to curse those who curse you, was still in place generations later. You're still going to see that. You're going to see that God also gave this same generational blessing to Isaac. God spoke to him because he spoke to not only to Abraham, but God also spoke to Isaac. So they audibly heard God speaking. And then the same thing for Jacob. God spoke words, audibly heard God speaking to Jacob, and then and to Isaac and to Abraham. The next thing, we talked about the wife being barren, but what was interesting, they lied. Abraham lied about his relationship to his wife right after this promise took place. So when God promised him that I'm going to make you a great nation, I'm going to bless you, I'm going to curse those who cursed you, right behind that, the next verse, Abraham was lying about his relationship to his wife. The very same thing happened with Isaac. God blessed him in one verse, few verses later, same thing's happening. He's lying about his relationship to his wife. So that was something that we saw in both areas. We also saw, because of his wife being barren, he decided to have children. Well, his wife offered up her maidservant, Hagar, to have children with, because Sarai at that time was barren and she could not give him birth. She could not have any children. She was getting older in age. So she said, you want to have an heir. So this is how we're going to do it. You're going to create a child with my maidservant. I'm going to give her to you to have a baby with. And so this is right after God telling him, I'm going to bless you. I'm going to make you the father of many nations, and all of those things that God told him he was going to do. And right behind that, Abraham went and tried to create create a child through a different route. Rather than waiting on God, he did it his own way. And many times that's exactly where we find ourselves at. We find ourselves at a critical point where it becomes, do I wait and trust in God, or do I do this my own way? Do I make my own way, make my own path, make my own place that I want to move forward in? And so this is what happened with Abram. And what he did was he opened the door to disobedience to God and rebellion. Kai, I don't think that's rebellion. I don't believe that that's what he did. That is exactly what that door was. I want to do this in my own way because I have waited on God and God has not answered. So I'm going to do it a different route and go against what God told me. Where did we originally see this at? With Adam and Eve. That's where we originally saw this at. God told Adam, do not eat the fruit. Eve decided the fruit looks good because of the serpent convincing her. So she took the fruit. She gave it to Adam after she ate it. And Adam then went behind her and ate the fruit too. So this opened the door to disobedience rebellion, but it also caused the falling away from God. And that what preceded the flood happening with Noah. You would think after hearing all of these stories, that would cause Abram at that time to go, I'm going to choose to wait on God. I saw what happened then, or I heard what happened before. But sometimes with history, especially history in the family, there are so many hush-hush secrets that we don't tell. We don't talk about. We're not going to share this with nobody. It was for me to carry by myself, or I don't want anybody to judge me, so I'm not going to say anything. And then you find generations falling in the same snares or the same traps of the enemy because no one educated that family member on, I've already done that. Don't do it. It was chaos and craziness. Trust God and wait on him. Don't do it the way I did it. It was the wrong way to go about it. So because we keep that muzzle over our mouth because we don't want to be judged, you find that several generations go through the same thing. And then we start seeing generational curses. So as I said before, Abram's wife, barren. Isaac's wife, barren. Jacob's wife, barren. So we're starting to see this curse that's starting to come through the bloodline. And it should have been a red flag of, oh, wait a minute, why is this happening over and over and over again? What do we need to know? Next week, I want to go a little bit deeper into these three men, but I also want to take a look at their wives. That's going to be something else that I want to take a look into, just to tell their story, because there's some interesting thing about them that I would love to share. The next thing we notice is strife in the home between Sarah and Hagar. So there was strife in the home between the women in Abraham's life. Sarah was very upset because Hagar had a baby by Abraham and started, flaunting around like, I'm pregnant, you're not. And so Sarah became very upset about this. It was already a touchy subject for her, but for Hagar to continue to throw that in her face or kind of flaunt like, I'm above you, it just added a little bit more tension. So that tension in the home became a great deal of headache for Abraham because now they both can't be in the same home. At some point, Abraham has to send Hagar and her son Ishmael away because of the fact that they are causing issues for Sarah and Isaac. So he wants to separate them from each other. So it was strife between the wives and strife between the children. We see this same discord between siblings and wives. We see this as we go down to Jacob. Keep in mind, Jacob's sons, there was so much discord between Rachel and Leah. So much discord between them because they were sisters, because of the favoritism that Jacob showed to Rachel, because of Leah had son after son after son. Meanwhile, Rachel is barren. Jacob is having to share his time between the two of them. And then they bring in the maidservants, which is the same thing that we saw Abraham's wife do. She offered up her maidservant. Leah and Rachel then also offered up their maidservant for Jacob to have children with as well, because Rachel was barren at that time, did not have any children. And so this was her way of having a child through another woman. And so we saw that situation did not work for Abraham. It's not surprising that this also caused some friction in the family when it came to Jacob. And so we see the discord between the wives, but we also see discord between the siblings. After Isaac's wife was able to conceive, his wife, Isaac, again, remember, he prayed. God answered his prayer. His wife became pregnant. His wife Rebecca, had two sons that she had. But during her pregnancy, there was so much friction in her pregnancy or in her womb that she asked God, what is happening here? Like, this just does not feel right. And God told her, you are pregnant with two different nations and they're fighting in your womb. And so when she gave birth to her two sons, Esau and Jacob, they became that sibling rivalry that we saw with but a little bit of, not a lot, with Abram's children because they were kind of separated. We see this again playing out with Isaac. And again, when those spirits are allowed in the bloodline, when those issues or generational curses are allowed in the bloodline, with every generation, that spirit gets stronger. So it may show up as a little thing in your generation, and then you're wondering why in the next generation is this so crazy? And then the generation after that is just insane because that spirit gets stronger and stronger. The longer you allow it to have access to you, to your family, the longer that spirit is allowed and being fed, because that spirit is going to remain hungry, and it's going to constantly need to be fed. It's going to need a sacrifice. And that's what each generation is providing the spirit, a sacrifice, which is the reason why these curses are allowed to continue in the bloodline until, again, someone acknowledges and cuts that thing off. And so we saw a little bit of, turmoil when it came to Abraham with his two boys, Ishmael and Isaac. A little bit, but again, they were separated because we saw Ishmael teasing Isaac when he was little, and Sarah seeing that, not liking that, and telling him, you got to send her and her away. You got to send Hagar and this seed away. They should not inherit what my son is supposed to inherit. So they got to go. And she put her foot down, and that's exactly what happened. However, it wasn't dealt with and cut off at the head. So then Isaac has children, and his children are fighting in the womb of their mother. They are in the womb of her, and they're fighting. Then when he gives birth to them, we are seeing what happens after that is taking place. And so they continue to fight even afterwards. So much so that Jacob, that lyingful spirit that we saw with Abraham when he lied about his relationship with his wife, Isaac then turns around and lies about his relationship with his wife. So he tells men, she's not my wife, she's actually my sister. So that lying and deceit now had got to come with another generation. So that's why Isaac lied and deceived men by saying that his wife was actually his sister. Now we see it manifest again in Jacob's. And so when Jacob lied in order to steal his brother's birthright, and then thievery also comes in. So now we've got thievery, we've got lying, we've got deceit. All three of them have access to the bloodline now because Jacob stole his brother's birthright. So this is a generational curse. We're still seeing these same two spirits coming down the generation. And so they are able to stay within them. The next thing we talked about the strifes in the household between the women. So the women not getting along. This really manifested with poor Jacob. It was just times 1,000, not necessarily what maybe Abraham and Sarah dealt with, not to that extent, but much more by the time it came down to Jacob. We do see that we've already talked about the maidservants giving birth to the children through the wives getting children through maidservants because the wives were no longer producing. So Leah and Rebecca were not producing heirs. So Leah also gave up her maidservant to Jacob and said, have a baby with my servant. You had one with Rebecca, I'm going to give my servant up. So Jacob then has a baby with her servant, and then another one with the other one. And then finally Leah's womb opens up again, and Leah births another boy. And it just keeps going back and forth. And finally, Rebecca gets pregnant. That is the thing that we see as a generational blessing for all three generations. Abraham and Sarah were able to give birth to a child. After Isaac's wife finally gave birth to a child, and after praying and consecration, Jacob's wife Rebecca gives birth to a child, but not just one, but two. So very much a good thing, a blessing that came through from this time. The second thing I want to talk about is when Abraham, the second time he relationship to a king, his relationship with his wife, God shut up the wombs of all the women in the kingdom until the king gave Sarah back to Abraham. I do believe that that was part of curse. And I wouldn't put that here, generational curse for Abraham, because it wasn't a curse for him. It was God fulfilling a promise that God made when God said, I will curse all that curse him. Anybody that takes anything that was his, anybody who tries to steal from him, anybody who tries to speak verbally a curse, I'm going to curse them. It's going to come back on them. And so I would not put this here. I'm actually going to take it out because I don't want anybody to get confused. Give me a second, y'all. I want to make sure I'm taking the right one. All right, so that would be a part of the curse who curse you. So we talked a lot about the generational curse, and there's just so many other areas that we can go to with this. But now I want to go into the generational curses because I'm in generational blessings. I really want to keep this under 30 minutes. So I'm going to stop with the curses from there, and we'll pick back up again. So generational blessings. After the God blessed him. So after he lied about who his wife was, Abraham did, who his wife was to him, God turned around and blessed Abraham behind that, and blessed him so much that when they left out of the first kingdom, they left out with more than what they came in with. Same thing happened for Isaac. After he lied to the men about who Rebecca was, they gave Rebecca right back, and then God blessed him so much so that the people around became jealous. God blessed him on that level. And God blessed Isaac with 2 sons. That was the other thing that God blessed him with. God promised both Isaac and both Abraham that he would give them seed, and he did. The thing you need to know about generational curses and generational blessings is that they will pass down the bloodline. So if there is any that God gives as a generational blessing in your bloodline, maybe it's something you haven't tapped. Maybe it's something that has laid dormant because nobody stepped in position to get. Maybe it's something that has not been fulfilled yet. By stepping in position with God and opening yourself out, that blessing can now flow down to you. So I don't want you to get so focused on the curses that you miss out on some of the generational blessings that God has in store for not just you, but for the family to collect on. God is saying, I promised you these things, and my word will not return to me void. It would make God a liar if God said, I'm going to bless your family like this, and I'm going to bless the generations like that, and then that thing does not get fulfilled. That is the reason why it's important for you guys to have a relationship with God, so God can give you that. The other thing that we notice is God spoke to them in the same manner. He spoke audibly to each one of them, but he also gave them dreams. Jacob, we would say Jacob had dreams where God spoke to him. When you think of Jacob, the dream of the ladder, Jacob's ladder, that was a dream. But he also spoke to his son in dreams, which is interesting. Why, when his son came to him to say a dream, and this is what I saw, that Jacob didn't go, God is speaking to him, but got offended because he didn't like the dream that was provided. And we're going to talk about that. I don't want to jump too far ahead. I want to stay right here where we are. So let's stay in this vein. The next thing, the king saw the blessings and with him that no harm would be done, and they would please peaceably. This is with Abraham, but we see this same thing manifest with Isaac. The king did the same exact thing. Whole different king, whole different kingdom came to him and said, let's make a pact. You won't attack me, I won't attack you. I think this pact was really for the king going, I see how God is blessing you, and how God is multiplying your everything that's connected to you. And I see how he's blessing your lineage, and your children are blessed, how God is protective of you. I want to make sure I don't get the brunt of this. Then God come after me. So let's just make a pact of peace between us so that your God won't look at me as your enemy and come after me. We also see this when it comes to the children of Israel. Think about this. They were so blessed and prospering, and their offsprings were just growing, and they were multiplying so much that the king became afraid that if they got together with the enemy of that kingdom, then we would see them rise up against us. So let us get them into let's get them in bondage first before they overtake us. Let's get them before they get us. That became the mindset, instead of a mindset of let's create peace with them, a peace pact that we're seeing in the generations. That's not what happened in this time. But again, it was to make sure God's word would not come back to God void, because God had told Abraham during this time, your offsprings will be in bondage. So that thing had to manifest. But interesting that we see the threat of them prospering being registered for the kings of this time and the people who were in leadership. So they either saw them as a threat or they saw them as a partner. Let us create this partnership, you guys. So that was interesting for me to see that. God also said, he created, told him about a blessing for his families through him, that all of his family would be blessed because of Abraham. So again, when I talked about those blessings that God may have spoken over your family that have laid dormant, it's very important that you go back and say, God, what have you promised that hasn't manifested? I need you to manifest it in my time. Let me be in right standing with you, that you can bless me, so that those things that did not come to fruition, we don't leave anything for the enemy to take. We don't leave anything that the enemy now has and they're holding hostage because the family hasn't lined up. So what do we need to do in order to be in position? Especially if you've seen, for my particular family, my great grandmother was a very good businesswoman, but that is a thing that we saw with her mother and her mother's mother. So very good with coming up with ideas and strategies on business. And I see that with my cousins, with my aunts, with my some of my uncles. I still see that business savvy, that connection piece taking place. And so it's good to be able to identify that, so you know this is a generational blessing, and it's also a strength of the family to be able to come together in this particular area. So that way you can educate your seed on what they need to look at, not only on the generational curse side. These are things that I'm warning you about, but I also want you to know the generational blessings of our family, so that you'll know how to carry these things on and how to see this manifest in your life, right? All right. So it says, God promised Abraham seed. He promised him that you're going to be fruitful and multiply. He promised him, God promised him that he would multiply his seed. God made a covenant with Abraham to multiply his seed exceedingly, the father of many nations. He told him kings would come out of Abraham, and Ishmael would be fruitful, and princes will come out of him, and God would make a great nation, increased Abraham's faith, and Sarah bore a son and a ram in the bush. So I'm going to talk a little bit about just those two things. God increased Abraham's faith. First of all, when God came to Abraham saying, you're going to have a child, God believed, but it didn't manifest immediately. This is where faith comes in. I have to believe in those things that I cannot see, that are not manifesting right now. It is much easier for me to believe that you have a piece of cake for me when the cake is in your hand. I can believe that there is some cake for me when you're holding the cake in your hand. But the second there's nothing in your hand and you're saying, but I got something for you, it's much harder for me to believe in that. And then the ram in the bush, remember what happened with Isaac, where God said, you sacrifice your son. He did not sacrifice his son because God put a ram in the bush. So it helped with his belief system. Now, I am going to stop right here on generational blessings because I don't want to go any further than this. We'll pick this up again later, but I wanted to just give us a little bit of taste on the blessing versus the curse. And I will come back next Tuesday with more information, more curses with the three of them, and more blessings for us to look through. Again, I am Cunningham with the Dream Team, Cincinnati, Ohio. Hope this has been very educational. If you have any questions, feel free to put it in the chat or feel free to send us an email anytime. Our team will respond. You can also reach us on our website at www.dream.org. Talk to you guys soon.